Well, his has great sounds.
Call the Thursday, August 13th City Commission meeting to order. First item on the agenda would be review of the July 23rd minutes. Any changes?
None.
No.
Okay, stand as written. Next item on the agenda, citizen comments on non-agenda items. Seeing none, we'll move on to the consent agenda. We have Mark Young for a 4-year term to the Hayes Rec Commission Board.
Move approval of the consent agenda.
I'll second.
Motion is second. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Passes 5-0. Next item on the agenda would be rezoning proposed V&E first edition. Jesse Roll.
Good evening, Jesse Rohr, Director of Public Works. A couple items for me to talk about tonight, both relating to the same parcel of property. The first is a rezoning request. We have had an application submitted by V&E Properties to request a change in zoning from ag to multifamily for a property near 33rd and Sherman Avenue. The property is currently ag, has been ag for many, many years. Currently, just to the east of the property, there are a set of multifamily senior apartments built in 2012 and 2015. And another note is this property was recently annexed into the property after approval here by the City Commission. This visual shows the area provided by the applicant for the specific area being zoned. Off to the east here, you can see the existing multifamily housing I mentioned, and then this property here will be the one we're talking about tonight for the zoning. So this slide shows the current zoning of the property and surrounding properties. Of course, everything in green is ag, and what we'll be talking about tonight is that portion there outlined in red. You can see some multifamily housing in that orange there to the east. There's some commercial to the west, and some single family, 1 and 2 family dwelling zoning to the south of 33rd Street. So here's a clip of a concept plan out of the comprehensive plan. And it does have the area identified as high-density residential, which is what they're asking to be rezoned to. This rezoning request, because of this and other factors, is logical and does continue with the character of the neighborhood. As with most zonings, we like to show you the uses that are allowed with the proposed zoning district. So these are the uses allowed by right, or what we call permitted uses. You can see the single-family housing, apartments, schools, public utilities. Then there's another set of uses, and these are limited uses. So these could also be on the property if it is indeed zoned to multifamily. However, there are certain administrative approvals required before they would be allowed. And then the third set of uses are special uses. So these require approval and a public hearing from the Board of Zoning Appeals if any of these uses were to be proposed on the property. So with any zoning, there are 3 options that are afforded you by state statute, and you can approve it as was recommended by the Planning Commission and city staff. You can send the request back to the Planning Commission for more discussion and specific basis for sending it back, or you can deny the zoning request, and if you do that in counter to the Planning Commission, it would require a 2/3 majority vote of the City Commission. This would be the action requested, should you choose to do so, and I'd take any questions you might have.
I'll make a motion that we approve ordinance number 3989, rezoning the proposed V&E first edition from agricultural district AL to residential multifamily district RM.
Seconded.
Got a motion and a second. Any comments for him?
I got one, I guess, comment or question. On the financial considerations, it says there will be an increased property tax revenue once developed, but there's no tax change just by rezoning it.
That's correct. The taxation is done by use. So if it continues to be used as ag, from what I understand, the taxation in its current state continues. If it were to develop into multifamily housing, then it would be taxed accordingly.
All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Passes 5-0. Next item on the agenda, final plot, V&E First Edition.
Okay, so we're going to be talking about the same property, and now that we've considered the zoning, and as I mentioned, we have already had the annexation earlier this summer. The next step is to consider the final plat, which would be the final, one of the final steps before potential development of the property. Before we talk about the final plat, I'll show a couple slides showing the preliminary plat, and although no approval from the city commission is required of the preliminary plat, it is kind of an important part of the platting process. The preliminary plat did go before the planning commission and was approved, as well as the final plat. So this slide shows the entire tract of the property, and in the yellow outlined area you can see the area of the preliminary plat, and then the red area over here, which is what you just approved the zoning for, is the area of the preliminary plat that's being final platted. So I'll show you a little bit larger version of this here in a second. Just want to point out, you know, this is, if you remember that zoning slide that had that green area showing all ag, that's the area of the preliminary plat. And for the final plat, we'll be focusing on this portion over here. So let me blow this up just a little. So again, before we would consider a final plat of the single lot over here, we had asked the developer for a concept or a preliminary plat of the entire vacant property, just to ensure alignment with streets, utilities, lots and block sizes. And although it's just a concept, you know, this could be how the rest of the property develops. It may develop as something different, but we know this is one concept that will work and will allow the final plat to move forward. So the one lot on the very east of the preliminary plat, again, the area you just approved the rezoning on, is the one and single lot being final platted. It's approximately 400 feet in width. It is approximately 8 acres in size. All the required access easements and utility easements are in place for those items, along with the development. Go one more here. So again, you can see the single lot being final platted. This has the imagery behind it. So on the right of the screen there, which is to the east of the property in question, you can see the existing Ellis Estates senior housing complex. 33rd Street is along the bottom area here. The options on the plat would be to approve final plat as submitted. You could request any changes or other considerations to the plat, or not approve. And this, again, would be the action requested. So
I move approval resolution number 2020-015, accepting the final plat of the V&E First Edition.
I'll second.
Okay, got a motion and a second. Any comments?
Jesse, I have a couple of questions. Well, one, would you address the stormwater that we discussed last week on that property?
sure, I can definitely do that. I'm glad you brought it up because I intended to do so. So a little bit of history. When the first phase of Ellis Estates developed, they, as just like any other larger multifamily housing development or commercial development, are required by City Hayes ordinance to have a stormwater management plan that is engineered and provides for appropriate water discharge from the property. And in short, what it says is water can't run off the property post-development in any greater volume than it did pre-development. So this property, like I say, they had an engineered plan. Their water actually runs the majority of it to the north, and there's they worked with KDOT. There's a discharge kind of on the northeast portion of the property, and it discharges into the draw, just enters KDOT right away. There is a similar plan. The potential developer on this property has already been working with an engineer, have a similar plan so that they can ensure that the post-development runoff won't be any greater than pre-development, so there's no further downstream stormwater issues.
This has messed with my brain since last
Me
week.
too.
It needs to drain south. Everything drains south. And when I keep thinking about that's draining north, I mean, it since my brain just wasn't getting there.
Another question is, will this lot have any connection to 33rd Street?
This lot will most likely connect to 33rd. Currently, that is their only access as a standalone lot. Now, the developer may choose, if it's, we've heard that the same developer is looking at this property to potentially develop as developed Ellis Estates. If that were to happen, they could, if they choose, connect to the current lot there to the east. Their other option is to allow for drive entrance off of 33rd Street. If so, they'd have to meet all City Hayes standards specifications for driveway location, access location, and how it's constructed.
That was my question, is if they could put it any place or if they need to check with us, so.
Right, there are certain restrictions, distances from intersections. Even though there's not an intersection here yet, the preliminary plat does show Sherman Avenue continuing north potentially. So we would take that into consideration when they present a plan for the access location.
Okay, thank you.
So Jesse, kind of like them last week after you said that, it just baffled me with it running north. So when they design this, I mean, they can design it so it won't flood right next to it, the existing apartments or whatever they're called.
Right, because this is a standalone property, and so they will have to, now again, if the owner chooses to, if it ends up being the same owner,
Right.
they could combine systems. But yeah, it'll be designed so that they're not flooding properties to the south, to the east, or you know, obviously going north as well. So,
I think it's great. It just odd to me, I guess.
so and like I say, that's a requirement of all commercial
Sure.
development or
Right.
even multifamily type housing like this. So.
All right. Okay. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Passes 5-0. Thank you, Jesse.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda, I will declare the 2021 budget public hearing open. We'll hear from Colin, Assistant City Manager.
Good evening, Colin Belzer, Assistant City Manager. So after months of preparation, we're finally here for the 2021 adoption of the budget for the City of Hayes. The order of this presentation will follow your budget workbook that we've had for the last few months. As an overview, so it is a balanced budget. Sales tax revenue is projected to be down 1%. Assessed valuation will be up 1% though. We maintain our full-time equivalency at 181. Included in this budget programming is a 2% wage step increase for all city employees. We maintain 25 mills for a mill levy, which is its 11th year running if we do that, and the reserves are adequately funded. Early on when we started this process, direction from City Manager Doherty was a maintenance budget, and I think that's reflected in the department's budgets in the book. Any significant items are capital expenditures, which to the credit of the City Commission is years of forethought and what we're going to do with vehicles and projects. So the general fund, to begin, is the general fund is the primary government account, which accounts for all the general purposes that government requires. It isn't a special type of fund. So we're expecting about $13.456 million in total revenue. Sales tax is a big chunk of that. It's about 61% of the general fund revenues, and that number does include the additional $700,000 from the county sales tax. One thing I wanted to put up there was the pull factor. If you're not familiar with what a pull factor is, it measures the per capita spending power in your city versus the per capita spending power in the state, and you get a number. If it's above 1, it means you're drawing people into your community. If you get less than 1, it means people are leaving your community to shop elsewhere. The Department of Revenue at the state puts together a report every year, and they look at the top 100 towns by population. And Hayes, while it says number 7, it's tied with Garden City, so it has the 6th highest pull factor in the state of Kansas. With that being said, there's value in also seeing what other towns come in at, but you also got to keep in mind different towns have different attributes, characteristics. So clearly the easy one to kind of point and say what's going on is Merriam at 4.5. If you're not familiar with that town, Johnson County, right along I-35, only a town about 11,000 people. But it does have a Home Depot, a Dick's, and then maybe you've been there, but IKEA. So I think that's a big driver for them. So you gotta always keep that in the back of your mind.
That
Colin?
Colby one really surprises me too.
Is that 1.68, or is the pull factor calculated every year?
Yes. The
Do
state,
you know if this is up or down from last year?
I believe this is up slightly, but I'll verify with you.
Thank you.
That would be interesting
it's fluctuating a few years, so. When we get to expenditures, the total expenditures we're anticipating is $13,689,000, and then the operating is only $12,548,000. So the difference between that is the transfer to the commission capital reserve. That's where that comes in. If you look on the right, the pie chart kind of shows a breakdown of the expenditures by section of the government. I put city commission in there. It shows 9%. 98% of that is the transfer to commission capital reserve, which is about $1,141,000. So general government would include basically city hall. Public safety, of course, is the highest. That's typical. I don't think that's abnormal at all. They're 24/7 hour services. So you can kind of see just where that total expenditures is going.
Does that include the 700,000?
Yes.
So
Yeah.
that's basically 1.1 million difference, but there's the 700,000 is included in that difference.
The $700,000 is included in the total expenditures, or total revenue. Excuse me. And then some of that is being used, all that money is going towards the commission capital reserve. Right. Okay. With that being said, the budget is increasing in overall operating expenditures, but in terms of operating, it's only going up $36,625. So that difference, of course, is that sales tax is why the overall budget's increasing in expenditures, but how we run our operations in the general fund only going up $36,000. So that's a testament to the maintenance budget that department heads were tasked with doing. 8% of that total expenditures is the transfer to the commission capital reserve. That fund was established in 2011 to begin the practice of paying cash for most capital projects. Next year's capital project will be 27th Street, Fort to Hall reconstruction that we estimate will be $2.9 million. Again, all paid in cash. Notable department projects on the right, it's in a box. So these two projects are departments in the general fund, but the funding sources are coming not out of the general fund, and I'll point that out later. But we'll be doing an east multi-use path for about $450,000. That'll go from Hayes Med to Hayes Rec through the high school. And then the Public Works will be doing our annual street maintenance program for close to $1 million. As I mentioned at the beginning, we're at 25 mills. It'll be the 11th consecutive year that we'll be doing that. We are requesting $5,727,000 ad valorem tax for that. If you look on the right, you can see the breakdown of how that translates to which funds we're levying for. 47% is the employee benefit fund, so clearly the highest there, as it should be. Not unusual for benefits to be somewhat expensive. And then the second place would be coming in would be the library at 27% of what we're levying for. Again, I did a comparison to kind of see where we're at in mill levy. So the league puts together a report every year that looks at tax rates. So this is for last year, or our current tax rate that we're in right now, not the 21. But we levy at 25. And out of the 122 first and second class cities, we're number 9 on that list for our mill levy. The top 13 communities, all 12 of the 13, or all of them except Hayes, of course, is Johnson County. So to be able to maintain that for 11 years, I think is very impressive, coming from outside in. Of the typical Hayes property tax bill that everybody pays, 23% goes to pay for city services. So that would be the airport, library. Obviously, there's a levy for employee benefits, so that would also include parks, recreation, police. And then the $1.35 a day, if you look at the American Community Survey through the census, the most recent statistic is the median home value is $171,400. So if you take that times our mill levy, it costs a person $1.35 per day in property tax to receive all those city services for a $171,400 home. Levied funds, so the Hayes Public Library, as I said, is getting about 27% of our levy. It's about $1.7 million in expenditures, and we levy for both the operations of of the library, and also their employee benefits. And the pictures on the bottom, I'm sure you're aware, but they're doing a remodel project, so that's some renderings, and I think they'll be starting here soon and finishing early next year. The Hayes Regional Airport, so some notable things that they're doing. Total expenditures about $570,600. All these numbers are getting difficult to read. Notable equipment, so they are buying two-piece equipment for a total investment of $254,000. A loader, front loader to help them in their operations is the bulk of that, about $230,000. Some projects we're doing, we'll be investing about $1.5 million in the airport for those 3 projects you see up there. That's the total investment. So when you take out the 90-10 split with the FAA, the city investment's only $154,000 is what we're estimating. So the Public Safety Equipment Fund, this is a $2 million levy that's used to purchase fire trucks, police cars, associated equipment. It was authorized by resolution in 1979. Its goals are to incur no debt, provide necessary fleets of police vehicles, and then the appropriate number of fire vehicles that we need. Some of the notable expenditures in there is the PD will be spending about $91,000 for patrol car laptops, 2 mountain bikes. Those are the signature items in there. Fire department's $48,500. The big thing in that, besides just general equipment, is I think about $15,000 for tires on one of the trucks or the fire engines. And then our new equipment reserve will be buying 3 patrol vehicles, a dually crew cab for the fire department, and then emergency radio equipment for about $247,000. We have our employee benefit, which I mentioned is the biggest one that we levy for, about 47% of our levy. We budget $11,000 per employee for health insurance, so that's what that represents. And then our debt service. To begin the 21, our budget will reflect a $7.76 million outstanding debt. According to our policy, we could go as high as $34 million in debt, and then state statute actually allows you to go to 30% of your assessed valuation, which would be $69 million in debt roughly. This doesn't include North Vine, so you will be adding some because of North Vine here probably next year. But it's not reflected yet in the budget, obviously. For city utilities, our total expenditures that are budgeted about a little over $14 million. There's kind of a breakdown of what utility makes up what. Water reclamation and reuse at 37% is our highest expenditure, but of course we have a large debt payment for the new treatment plant that contributes to that. Solid waste, about $1.6 million. They are upgrading a few items, conveyor, baler, roll-off trucks, so we're doing about $170,000 total investment in those operations. To give you an idea, we have about 7,100 customers. There is a $1.50 a month rate increase that's scheduled to begin January 2021 associated with the solid waste budget. The water production and distribution, there's a 3% rate increase that's in 2021. This is the last year for the current series of rate increases that we have planned. Some of the things they plan to do, of course, is to continue the proactive maintenance with wellhead rehab and waterline improvements, about $165,000. And with the lime slaker replacement, which is a machine that introduced lime and adds water to remove impurities, that's going to get replaced. The mechanical components are about 15 years old, and the electrical are a little older than that. So we'll be updating that. And then the SCADA improvements are also planned. The current SCADA system was installed in 1993. It's a big ticket item, obviously, but it's what allows all our operations that are involved with water to speak to one another. And then we'll be buying a generator for one of our wells for about $40,000. Water reclamation, about $5.2 million. Some notable equipment that they'll be doing is purchasing solid handling trucks. So currently we have 2, a 1991 model that actually started out as a trash truck for the city, and then a 1998 model. So we're going to replace both of those with just one. Newer equipment is more efficient, so we only need to replace one of those. Some notable projects is they're going to continue their proactive maintenance for about total $520,000 total investment. And give you a stat for you to know is there's approximately 111 miles of sewer lines that they have to maintain in the city. Water conservation, total expenditures $3.3 million. They're going to continue doing their normal outreach and education campaigns. Not a lot different there. The largest expenditure in that amount is a transfer to the sales tax reserve. And then at the bottom, I've listed a $4 million in total investment. The budget's only 3.3. The difference is because the R9 wellfield development design at $4 million is going to come out of the sales tax reserve. But it's a water conservation project, so it was listed in there as a capital plan. Special highway, this of course funds our road work here we do in town. You can kind of see about 48% of all our road work is funded by the general fund. 52% comes from the state of Kansas. We get that from gas tax and then the Connecting Link program. So we do receive about $5,000 per lane mile in the city that is a state highway, and that's mainly Vine Street. And there's about 14.9 miles of highway that we receive that money for. And then we will be spending just shy of $1 million for our 2021 street maintenance program that will come with you later this year with the plan for that will be. Special Parks and Rec. So this is a fund that has to be used for park and recreation services. Its major funding source is from a third of the liquor tax that we receive. The signature project is that $450,000 trail that we'll be conducting on the east side of town. The special alcohol. So this is a fund that provides local agencies resources to provide them services to reduce the dependency on alcohol and other abuse substances. This mainly benefits the police department. I think we come to you fairly regularly on progress reports about things they're doing, presenting to the schools about drug and prevention. So that is where those funds are going, is to help fund that department. Convention and Visitors Bureau, so it's to market the city of Hayes. The 2021 transient guest tax revenue is projected to be down 19% from 2020. A lot of that is obviously the uncertainty related to COVID. The big expenditure, though, is we've earmarked $337,000 for the debt service payment associated with the North Vine Street corridor improvements. That project will be funded from the guest tax.
I have a question here. When did we project the 19% down? How recent is that projection?
I have you, Kim.
That was early on, speaking with Melissa. She wanted to do about 80%. With the way things were trending at the time, she wanted to do about 80% of what we budgeted for 20. So we left that alone. She was still of the opinion that that's about where it would land.
Thank you.
Our stormwater fund, so the division oversees compliance with our stormwater permit. The big project that we plan on doing out of this fund is lining Lincoln Tunnel. So it's a 100-year-old 6-foot diameter tunnel that runs for over a mile underneath the city. We previously did a relining in 2009, so we feel that the $750,000 will line into about 1,800 lineal feet. So, and there's a picture.
Give them personal tours of that when we do it.
Yeah, I'm still waiting to get down in there. They tell me they'll take me. I don't know. I will point out too the stormwater management revenue sources. There's that small percent that's a general fund transfer. You might as well consider it a stormwater fee because it's the general fund paying for its stormwater fee that we charge residents and businesses. Capital improvements, so about $12,300,000. The total expenditures, the city share would be a little over 11 million. That's the difference between the airport. So I've included the total expenses of the airport, and when you back out what the airport won't have to pay because of the FAA. So on the left, you can kind of see the percentage of where that money is going to be going. 32% to water conservation. That's high because of the $4 million for the R9 wellfield design. But once you back that out, it's a little different. Street, obviously, with our $1 million general or regular maintenance, plus our 2.9 27th Street brings it up to 31%. And then on the right, you can kind of see the dollar values of what each department is going to be expending in capital expenditures. And then the fleet replacement, we'll be replacing 27 pieces of equipment for about $1.6 million. Parks is acquiring the highest number of equipment pieces, and that will be about 24% or 27%, excuse me. But if you look at some other funds like Water Resources, that 24%, they're only buying 3 pieces. So let's see, what is it? 2 pieces of equipment account for over $500,000 of that 1.6 million. 230,000 for the loader for the airport and a 300,000 for the sledge. So a lot of mowers, but price-wise doesn't work out. Are there any questions before public comment?
I don't. We have any public comment? I don't think so. We need
This
a
would be the,
Motion, I make a motion that we close the public hearing.
Seconded.
motion and a second to close the public hearing. All in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Passes 5-0. Thank you, Colin.
I move approval of the 2021 budget for the city of Hayes.
Motion and second, approval of the 2021 budget. Any comments?
The reason I don't think there's any questions, at least from my perspective tonight, you've really all kept us part of the whole process as it's come along. So we've had questions as we've gone and comments as we've gone, but it's wonderful to get to the end, and we kind of have a good, at least I have a great feel for the whole budget process. So thank you, guys. Thank you, Kim, especially. It's a great job.
Yeah, I do also, and I love how you put on there the 25 mills, 11 years running, and continue to put money in the bank. I think that says a lot. We have a lot of projects planned. I personally, I know 2020 has been a little rough on everybody, but I think 2021 is going to be a big year. A lot of things that we've all been talking about, and possibly with the budget, and I'm excited to get 2020 over. Any other comments? Okay. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, nay. Passes 5-0. Thank you, guys. Next item, and Sandy, I'm going to speak first because you always take what I want to say.
Okay.
All right. So, now I just I want to applaud the community of Ellis County. I know I've listened to more county commission meetings in the last few weeks than I think I ever have, and I try to listen to Jason Kennedy quite a bit, and I know he pointed out, he didn't necessarily the masks weren't working, but he obviously said that the COVID cases, active COVID cases, were on the decline before the mask mandate, and I just think kudos to the community of Hayes or Ellis County, people doing the right thing, and it just shows. I was looking, and I'm sure there's other reasons, but we're a county of about 28,000, and we have yesterday 7 active cases, and I looked at Scott City. I seen on somebody's Facebook post. They have 27 active cases, and I mean I'm sure there's a reason for it maybe, but we're doing something right here, and I thank everybody for everything you've done on this and continue to do. And I also want to call on my colleagues in the business world. The kids are coming back. 4 Days State, I believe. I actually had the chance to do a Facebook Live with them the other day and just kind of explain what the city is doing to partner with them. And we need to all be leaders right now. These kids are coming back, and they're going to spend money in our community. We need them to stay healthy so they can hopefully go home and see mom and dad and come and bring mom and dad back to spend some money in Hayes. And I just, it's a lot of work and it's a lot of challenges, a lot of sacrifices us businesses have to do, but I think it's the right thing to do. And I just thank you for everybody that's doing what you're doing, but we're going to have to step it up even more with this many kids coming in. The schools are back in session, but I just hope if we continue to do the right thing that, my kids can have a full year of school, college can have a successful year, and just show how great Hayes is. So thank you, everybody. Commissioner Jacobs.
Thank you. I reiterate everything the mayor says. To have 0 new cases 16 days after we started the mask initiative, I think is speaks for itself. I know there were some larger gatherings this last weekend, so I wouldn't be surprised to see something come up next week. But people are really doing a great job everywhere I go. I did want to thank another kind of large group of citizens. You've probably all read about the CARES dollars that are coming into Ellis County and to the tune of $5.7 million. There was a contingency of people put together last week, and it's no more than a week, charged with allocating those dollars to various parts of the community, government agencies, nonprofits, profits, educational community. And in a matter of 7, 8 days at the most, this group of people put together a yeoman's work. It's just unbelievable, the work that was done. You wouldn't think it'd be too hard to give away $5.7 million, but it's harder than it seems. So I was proud to be part of that process with the nonprofits, but we were the easy ones. The rest of them were pretty tough, and I want to thank every single person that volunteered for that process. Thank you.
I actually want to reiterate, I'm the recipient of our business, applied for that, and, you see all the volunteers, once again, that put a lot of time into a short amount of time, and, I know they went through it with the county today, and, and I'm not even going to go into how that went, but just kudos to them, and that's what makes Hayes great, is the volunteers, what they do, and, sometimes when you go through what you've seen today, it'd be hard to get those same people to possibly volunteer again, but thank you for the volunteers, and, like they said today, there's potentially some people that didn't apply that possibly there'll be a round 2, and maybe they can apply for it. But maybe we can get things keep going that maybe most of us won't need round 2, which would be great for everybody, I
Great.
think. So, Commissioner Reuter.
First off, I wanted to thank Toby and the rest of the city staff on the wonderful job they did on the budget. It takes a lot of work. I know going through a budgeting process in my job, to be able to tighten your belt and come before us with a budget that doesn't eliminate services, doesn't increase taxes, and keeps things moving forward and putting money back in the bank is a pretty daunting task that you guys complete, it seems like, every year for forever now. So I really appreciate all the hard work you guys do with the budget. It doesn't go unnoticed. I know that for a fact. When it comes to the COVID situation, I want to remind everybody, with school starting back up, potentially sporting events, continued large events, the number one reason people can contract this virus is large gatherings. I mean, a majority of the cases come from known contacts of people who've had it. So you have to maintain social distancing when you're doing these things. Masks can work when you can't maintain social distance, but you have to maintain social distance, wash your hands, and stay home when you're sick. If you know you're sick, please stay home. We can beat this, but a virus needs people to spread, so if we can limit the number of people it can spread to, we can continue to keep our numbers as low as they are. So I really appreciate the community stepping up and keeping themselves separated when they're sick, washing your hands, and respecting the businesses and everybody who's going along with this ordinance. I just wanted to thank everybody for that, and thank you, commissioners, for making my first budget process a smooth and easy one. 2020's been an interesting 8 months now, but I think this is a fun time, and I'm excited for the future.
Commissioner Burgess.
I don't have anything to add this evening. Thank you.
Okay. Commissioner Millick.
Well, just so Sandy didn't feel alone. I really want to reiterate how important this budget is to everyone in the city of Hayes. Not only did city staff work hard, but each director worked hard. But most of all, it's our employees. Yep. Our employees are the ones that are out there working every day. They're the ones that keep this city running efficient, and that saves us money, whether it be, the guys on the front line or all of our employees with their not abusing their health benefits, which helps keep our rates down. We've gotten good rates, so that helps them, that helps us, that helps everybody in town with that budget. So kudos to all of our city employees from the top clear down to the bottom. So thank you.
Commissioner Millick, I want to reiterate on that. There's many cities that had to cut services very quickly and staff when COVID hit. And, Toby, to your staff, you guys just kept plodding along. And, it wasn't like you didn't cut anything. But, we didn't have any impact on services. And I just just what you said, kudos to your staff and everybody for giving us a great budget. And we're not standing still, though. We're moving forward, and that says a lot for the community of Hayes. So, we are adjourned.